family lives under a bridge, lost everything they owned. Now empty cardboard boxes are what they're calling home. This is where Jesus would go. There's a white-haired widowed lady laying in intensive care. No one goes to see her when she needs some love and prayer. This is where Jesus would go. This is where Jesus would go.
This was a woman who had come to be able to trust this group of women that she sat with, and she just shared how she had had an abortion. Now nobody had said anything different. There wasn't one cross word that was spoken in that room. There wasn't one condemning word that was ever said to her. But the people who used to keep a seat open for her no longer kept the seat open for her. Instead of a big hug and a hello, it was more of a half a hug and a good morning. Instead of a warm embrace, it was more like the preacher's hug, you know, just the one arm kind of hug. It wasn't the embrace that she became accustomed to. Subtle little things began to change. And beloved, let me tell you what happened to this young lady as she shared this sin with a group of women who were supposed to be on a common place, supporting one another, for they were a small group who met every week, sharing the Word of God among one another as women. It condemned her, and she in turn began to condemn herself. And she in turn began to doubt the ability of Christ to forgive her sins, because perhaps she committed the sin that couldn't be forgiven. And it sent her spiraling down a very terrible and black road. Whose fault is that, beloved? But it is our fault. It's not Christ's fault, and it's not the world's fault. The world should be expected to condemn somebody who's done wrong. And Christ loves all of us. That only leaves us left at fault. Perhaps the man who sits in a man's group and begins to share something that the other men find offensive, that he has had to struggle and wrestle through with life. Perhaps, beloved, it's not even something that somebody has overcome already. Perhaps it's something they're going through right now. A men's group coming together with 5 or 6 men who have built up this bond as a group and a brotherhood, and one of them mistakenly thinks that it's really a brotherhood until he shares some deep sin that he's wrestling with. And instead of finding men who will help hold him accountable in a godly way and who will strengthen him and support him, he finds a group of men who push him away and condemn him and judge him for his sin. They cast stones at him. They go home and say to their wives, "Can you believe so-and-so is doing this? I don't want him anywhere near my family. It's a terrible person." Beloved, why do we kill one another? Why do we destroy one another? And you know, I spent almost a half an hour talking about this. It's not what I came here today to actually speak about, but it's as good as any place to start. We should be believers, beloved, the elect of Christ, the children of God, the lovers of Jesus. We should be an example to the world of grace, mercy, and love. Now that's not to say, and don't mistake what I'm saying, don't hear something different than what I'm speaking to you about. That is not to say that we accept sinful conduct. That is not to say that we can turn our head and say, well, you know, well, what they're doing is not really right, but, you know, it's none of my business. My job's just to love them regardless. No, because if we love our brother or sister, we can go to our brother and sister and say, in love and compassion and in godly wisdom, my brother or sister whom I love, I've observed this in your life, and perhaps that's something that we can talk about, we can work through together. You see, we could use this to strengthen a relationship, or we could use it to destroy a relationship. And God doesn't call us to be the destroyers of relationships. For God is the restorer of relationship. And we're to be that living, breathing example. Now, that's not to say that we say it's okay, because there are times when you just need to take a firm stance and say, you know what, this can't be. This can't be. You are a godly person. You have to address this sin in your life. But, beloved, there's a difference between the way we need to treat a believer and the way we need to treat a non-believer. And there's an expectation of godliness that we need to hold to those who are more mature versus those who are new into the kingdom of Christ. You remember the stance that Paul took as he wrote the church at Corinth, as he said, you know, there's even among you, what was it, a son who married his father's wife? And they were, as if they were taking pride in it. Yes, we're the church with the guy that married his stepmom. Now, we don't hear of that too often, but we hear of all kinds of sins that go on in our church, and we turn a blind eye to it instead of in godliness stepping up and saying, you know what, we can't live like this, and you can't live like this as a believer. But see, that's the way we're to treat one another as believers. And this isn't the legality of staying, this is against the law of God. This is the grace of saying you're in a place of destruction, and you're bringing your destruction not just to you and your family, but to this entire body. It has to be addressed, and it has to be fixed, and that's not the way that you can live. It's not healthy for you, it's not healthy for your family, and it's not healthy for this body. And believe me, beloved, it's not the place of every believer within the church to do that. We have structure. This is a place of leadership. Whether that leadership is your small group leader, or that leadership is your leadership team for the body in general. If you have a concern, you need to take it to your leaders. Unless, of course, it's someone that you're close enough in relationship with, intimate enough that you can sit down over a cup of coffee or whatever and say, hey, listen, there's something I really need to talk with you about. But when we talk with the unbelievers, the non-believers of the world, beloved, there's a different thing, because listen, this is what I teach all the time, is I go and I minister in a world where they drink a lot of alcohol and they do drugs. Listen, it's not the drug that's sending the person to hell, and it's not the drink that's sending that person to hell. It's not living with a girl at home or living with a guy at home that's sending that person to hell. Hey, guess what? It's not homosexual behavior that's sending that person to hell. It's a lack of relationship with Jesus Christ that is sending that person to hell. And when Christ steps into their life, and when they submit themselves to Christ, and they begin to walk with Christ on that journey of Christ, Christ will begin to deal with those other issues. But if you come to me as a non-believer, and thinking back to before I submitted myself to Christ, before I met this wonderful Jesus, if you came to me and you said, you know what, you really need to stop drinking or you're going to go to hell, I would look at you and say, well, I guess I'm going to hell. All them drugs are going to send you to hell, boy. Really? You know? Well, that judgment's going to send you there too, so I guess I'll see you there. I didn't have the time or patience to deal with you who would come to me and tell me that my behavior, well, you know what, I already knew I was a bad person. I did not need you to come and tell me I was a bad person. Hey, gee, thanks for that revelation there. You know, we get so caught up wanting to point at people who are unsaved and pointing out their flaws. Why? So it makes us feel better? That's not loving them. It's not caring about them. That's not having a heart that's breaking for them. That's not pouring out your love for them. Beloved, time is drawing near. You know, as we read throughout the gospel and we look at the signs to come, almost all the signs have come. In fact, the only thing that I believe we're waiting on now is the return of Christ.
The broken-hearted father suffered his greatest loss as he watched his only son die on an old rugged cross. This is where Jesus would go. This is where Jesus would go.